Welcome to the program. Today is August 5. Yes, August 5, 2020. It's a Wednesday. We've come into the midweek and it's become a very interesting week. Of course, you all know that we're already under modified, enhanced community quarantine. But there are people who are wondering what's the difference. Parang same, pre-preho lang pre. But it's been interesting, especially if you live in that part of Quezon City. You walk out of your house, you're standing by the gate looking at your neighbors, and then may dadaang ostrich. And hindi ka makapaniwalang may dumaang ostrich, may humahabol na kambing. And then after the goat comes the dog, and after the dog comes the owner. Okay. Apparently, some people in Quezon City, in a village in Quezon City, had their own version of Jumanji in the middle of the day. Lunchtime pa naman yata yun, nagkahabulan na sila ng ostrich doon. Ang tanong ano ang ginagawa ng ostrich sa gitna ng Metro Manila. In any case, today, our guests will be Congressman Ruffy Biazon of Muntinlupa City, and we will ask him about many of these things because if you recall, Ruffy Biazon parang propeta. He's become very prophetic. He called out many things in the past months. He was one of the first, if not the first, to point out that we had so many open airports for flights coming in from China, particularly those areas infected by the virus. And he was the one who was really, he first came out and said, tigil niyo mga flights na yan, isara yung mga flights na yan because baka umani tayo ng virus. He was also one of the first to withdraw his signature on the Anti-Terror Bill. He was also one of the first, if not the first, also to call attention to the need to improve, expand, renovate the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM. So, and Malacanang has countered the proposal of new Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay to include regulations on social media in the implementing rules and regulations of the Anti-Terrorism Law. Malacanang said the provisions of the controversial law do not cover postings on various social media platforms. This after the AFP chief Gapay said Monday that he believes that regulating social media would curb radicalism among the youth, and that he would propose to include it in the IRR of the anti-terror law. To discuss the matter, we will speak with Muntinlupa Congressman Ruffy Biazon. Those were the major stories in the front page of the Philippine Star. And wag na nating patagalin, pasamahin na natin ang ating kaibigan, ka-church, ka-chokaran, Congressman Ruffy Biazon. Sir, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Cito. And sa lahat ng nakikinig at nanonood, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat.
Okay, bago tayo magkainitan sa diskurso, Congressman, I remember you were the first, if I'm not mistaken, back then who said we need to shut down the flights from Wuhan and from some other destination from China kasi kung hindi, dadami ang virus dito. Ikaw din yung nagsabi na we need to immediately expand, renovate our ITM, and eto na po tayo. From ECQ, we went to GCQ, and now we are back to MECQ. What is your assessment of our one of country? Wag na natin sabihin gobyerno, no? One of country, one nation, one people fight against pandemic. Anong assessment mo, Congressman?
Well, ngayon talagang medyo obvious naman na nahirapan tayo kasi yung health workers na mismo ang nagsabi. Humiling nga sila nung break na yan, ano? So it goes back doon sa actually noon kung sinabi nga na it's really a management issue, how we are managing the pandemic. Ang hirap siyempre na balikan yung nakaraan, yung nauna, no? Pero we can't help but say na nagkaroon ng mga misstep from the beginning, and we are now suffering those consequences ng misstep na yon.
Mm.
So we are just hopeful na lang na kung ano man ang magawa ngayong paraan, if we could tap experts in the field of pandemics, para naman matiyak natin na hindi pa lumaki lalo yung sunog.
Yeah, that's a key statement, Congressman. If we can tap experts in pandemics, the presumption is there are experts, but the general impression is the people at the IATF or government per se is not welcoming, although they're mouthing one nation, one government approach. May maraming naniniwalang parang wala, sila lang ang nag-uusap eh. Ano bang magagawa ninyong mga congressman? What can political leaders such as yourself and your associates do to change this situation or at least this impression?
Well, ang isang ginagawa namin, right now, a small group of congressmen, members of the Committee on Economic Affairs, we have been doing consultations with various sectors, and people with expertise in relation to legislation that we are preparing or we have filed para dun sa economic recovery ng ating bansa. But in the course of our consultations, may mga lumalabas, no, na tulad nung we need to create or the government needs to tap experts in health economy, in pandemics, the science part of it, and yung data analysis, no, data scientists, in order to help yung body tasked to manage this pandemic to come up with solutions and concepts that have basis in science. Kasi ngayon parang ang nagiging reactive instead of being proactive. Pandemic management is being reactive. Like isang example na lang, itong right before lumabas yung mga healthcare workers, nagkaroon ng decision, no, na ibaba yung yung parang status natin from GCQ, magluwag pa further. And then suddenly, siyempre nag-react ang medical community, and biglang willing tayo ulit bumalik ng MECQ. So ibig sabihin, nag-react lang tayo, no? Yung policy making was not based on yung talagang napag-aralan na mabuti na ma-input ang experts. So indicator 'yon na kailangan talaga natin to get more experts in the field of pandemic management. And meron naman yung mga yan, hindi lang nga natin nakikita na nagagamit sila. In fact, sometimes parang nagiging kalaban pa. Yung sinabi ng mga UP experts, no, ng scientists, na they were projecting kung ano yung possible na mangyayari, and parang it was refuted. Naging panalo kami, talo kayo pa na situation, no, instead of coming together. So yun yung nakikita rin namin. And on our part, we try to influence policy making in the executive branch.
I've noticed that for the longest time, Congress, the House of Representatives, as well as the Senate, has been very supportive, if not so aligned with the President. But there comes a point na pag nagkalintik-lintik ka na, you will have to draw the line. And we are fast approaching that line because the cases just keep exploding on a daily basis. Kiko Pangilinan made the first move. Sabi niya, hindi ko susuportahan yung budget na hinihingian ng gobyerno unless maglagay sila ng mga taong naiintindihan ng ginagawa at nasisiguro kong hindi lang makukurakot or actually, more the case, masasayang ang pera. Now, what is the sentiment now among members of Congress regarding this matter? Kasi it will come to a point where we need those experts and we need Congress to essentially listen to real experts. I mean, government to listen to real experts.
Siguro ang challenge namin ngayon, actually, yung situation brought about by the pandemic, yung pagiging napuwersahan, no, na napunta sa work from home arrangements, no? Kasi hindi kami nakakapag-meet dynamically, unlike yung mga time na pwede kami magkaroon ng sessions or committee hearings ng sama-sama, no? Ngayon lahat online. And it limits yung discussion. Ang problema kasi diyan, mas magiging effective ang House of Representatives or Congress as an institution. Pagka nangyari parang nagkakaroon lang ng hiwa-hiwalay na mga boses, diluted yung power of Congress, and
Yeah.
sometimes na bumababa pa dun sa point na sasabihin namumuliti ka lang yung individual congressman na yan or what.
Yeah.
So yun na isang difficulty. Ngayon yung na-mention ko na group kanina, yung committee namin, we're in active discussion. Yun nga lang, hindi yung platform para i-push forward namin yon. Doon naman namin nahaharap yung nabanggit ko na challenge, no, ng Congress as an institution. And yan, pupunta yan siyempre doon sa leadership. How does the leadership steer the institution to become relevant during times like this? Kasi marami talagang ideas na lumalabas amongst the congressmen. Pero
Yeah.
effective yung ideas na yon kung ma-channel siya as an idea of the institution. Magkakaroon ng strength. Otherwise, yun nga, parang ang tingin lang, individual moves lang, individual opinion lang ng isang congressman or legislator.
Yeah, nabanggit mo yung salitang napupolitika because this issue with the medical workers, nung nagpa-press conference sila, and I wrote about it in my column today, where it was pointed out even by Dr. Tony Leachon in our interview with him yesterday, na yung pagpe-press conference ng mga associations, medical associations, has been a regular practice nung panahon ng dengue, dengvaxia, measles, etc. Nagpe-press conference na sila. Eh biglang ang dumating kay Presidente Duterte, ang umabot kay Presidente Duterte ay parang pinapahiya siya o parang binaliwala siya, hindi man lang siya kinonsulta. So ngayon parang may tampo pa si Presidente dun sa mga physicians. How are you going to avoid that? Number one, the Speaker of the House tends to kind of tone down things. And then number two, how do you have access to the President himself? Kasi baka mamaya maglabasan yung mga suggestions nyo, ideas ninyo, pati kayo ma-label na naman kayong namumulitika or unsupportive of the President.
Yun nga ang mahirap ngayon, kasi there are some people na magbigay ka ng idea, no, that somehow turns out to be a criticism or a pagpupuna, no. Merong labeling din kaagad, no, na namumuliti ka lang, na hindi ka supportive. Gaya nga ng mga health workers na yan, they are the frontliners and they spoke up. I think it's unfair na ituring na nagagamit sila or nagpapagamit sila. I don't think nagpapagamit yung mga doktor natin at mga health workers. They are just trying to bring out yung concerns na nakikita nila in the front lines in the fastest means possible. Kasi kung meron pa ba silang dadaanan na layers, no, bago makarating sa Pangulo, in this time of urgency, I think mababawasan na yung epekto ng kanilang pagsasalita, no? We are in special times. Everything must happen quickly sa panahon ngayon. And I think to them, that was the fastest means available to bring the matter to the attention of the President and all other government officials, yung implementors and the policymakers. In one go, alam natin agad lahat ang kanong hinaharap nila, di ba? Kaysa yung dadaan pa sila sa kung kaninong channel para lang maiparating sa Pangulo personally or discreetly. I don't blame them for doing that.
Okay. We'll go for a quick break, Congressman, and when we return, pag-usapan pa natin lahat yung mga bagay na yan, as well as the Anti-Terror Bill and yung sinasabi ni AFP Chief Gilbert Gapay na dapat i-regulate ang social media. We'll be right back. Please stay with us and Agenda will return. Okay, back here on Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Signal TV. There we go. Congressman Ruffy Biazon, welcome back.
Yes.
Okay, Kong Ruffy, matanong ko lang, no? Kasi it's clear that there are now communication issues. And the general impression is IATF lang ang nasusunod at nagsasalita. Now, what can Congress do to ensure that the president is still accessible to other parties? Kasi katulad niyan, umalis si presidente, umuwi sa Davao. He will manage the country from Davao. Di lalo nang mas malayo siya from Metro Manila. Maybe it's for security, medical security reasons. But, given the situation, what happened with the medical workers, baka mamaya maulit na naman itong mga tampuhan, miscommunication, and nagkakaroon na ng cordon sanitaire around the president.
Well, it's hard to say now what can Congress do para ma-ensure yun, because of the separation of powers. But of course, yun nga, as I pointed out kanina, yung role ng leadership of Congress, of the House, would play a role on that. Kung mayroong mga feedback coming from individual members of Congress, if yun ang channel namin, yung leadership ang magdadala doon sa attention ng ating Pangulo kasi yan, may direct line yan. As to the other sectors, ang dapat talagang pinaka-obvious na naging channel dito was the Secretary of Health, who is the chairman of the Interagency Task Force on Infectious Diseases. Supposed to be yan ang talagang lead agency or lead body na nag-manage nitong itong pandemic. But obviously now, mukhang hindi naman talaga makakaila ito na ang may tiwala lang dun sa namumuno ng IATF yung Pangulo lang. Other stakeholders, we've heard statements na calling for his replacement. So may problema tayo doon kasi yung line of communication, may kakulangan ng confidence yung mga tao. Sana ang pwedeng magagamit na direct line or a line to the president by other stakeholders, particularly the health workers. Siyempre, yung Secretary of Health, who is the chairman of the IATF.
Alam mo, Kong, kaibigan ko si Secretary Duque, and for the longest time, dinedefend ko siya, pero up to the point nga na tinatawag na akong apologist ni Duque. Pero maski ako, pagod na rin ako pagtatanggol kay Secretary Duque. But the question is, professionally, objectively speaking, would it make sense to call for his resignation at this juncture? How will it help? Do we have someone who's waiting at the wings or competent enough to take over?
Well, yung replacement niya, I'd think na it would be really up to him now kasi nagsalita na ang presidente, nagsalita ang mga different sectors calling for his resignation. So nasa sa kanya na ngayon yan. So the choice is either he shapes up or ships out, di ba? Kumbaga, ako personally, ang stand ko doon, if he manages na maayos niya itong problemang ito on his own, then mabuti, continue. Kung yung replacement, may mga iba-ibang pangalan na lumalabas yan. I don't know them personally and I don't know enough of them to say na sila ang mas qualified.
But is it, Kong Ruffy, is it really a person issue? And this is not to defend him. Personally, whoever replaces him, I am not going to make comment on. Pero is it the person that we need to replace, or is it the setup that needs to be replaced or improved? Kasi nag-lockdown tayo ng 4.5 months. Meron tayong IATF, puro generals ang in charge. Nagpalit tayo ng spokesperson. And parang the talk now is, can we still continue under the setup or kailangan bang mag-overhaul, mag-renovate na si Presidente dahil pag hindi, lalong lalaki ang disgrasya ng Pilipinas?
Yes, ako ang personal opinion ko diyan after 5 months,
Mhm.
and ito ang dinadatnan natin ngayon, baka yun nga hindi lang change of player, change of tactics and the strategy na rin and
Mm.
probably the entire setup. Ako kasi ang nakita ko diyan nagsimula ang ang difficulties, to put it mildly. At the beginning yung exercise of leadership ng chairman of the IATF. Ang
Mm.
pinaka-evidence diyan yung February 4 hearing sa Senado kung saan it was revealed na yung patient 0, 1, and 2 natin yata yun.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Hindi natin nakaya lang natin na contact tracing was 17% of passengers of an airplane. Kumbaga, ang advantage na nga doon, may manifest yan Alam mo na kung sino mga pasahero ng eroplano. And yet,
Mm.
17% ang contact tracing na nagawa. And
Mm.
then, yung nagturuan yung mga members of the IATF. And at that point, ang nakita ko nga noon was that the chairman of the IATF was not duly recognized by the other members of the committee. Parang hindi kinilala na in this pandemic, yung chairman ng IATF, who is mandated to be the Secretary of Health, should be the principal authority of everything. Pero parang kanya-kanya silang galaw. Hindi niya na-exercise yung leadership. And nung pumasok na yung quarantine and then naging problema ang logistics, it was, my observation was, may kakulangan din sa organizational skills, in making things happen in a kind of emergency. And that's when the NTF came in, yung National Task Force,
National Task Force. Oh,
headed by General Galvez.
okay.
In a way, okay yun. Kasi expertise ng military ang logistics Ang organization, logistics, and making things happen. Expertise
Okay.
nila yan. But I think, ang naging problema naman doon, parang naging parallel sila. You have an IATF, Interagency Task Force, and then you have the National Task Force. Supposed to be ang delineation nila, operations lang yung NTF.
Yeah.
IATF was the policy making. But then along as we went along, parang na-blur yon kung sino ba talaga ang calling the shots. So kaya sa akin combined, yung
No, in fact, tama ka Kong Ruffy, because ang isa sa mga nakagulo was nung sinabing chief implementer. Although you, because of your background, having a military father, you have the military background, naintindihan mo na ikaw yung tiga patupad ng implementer at sila yung mga boss, sila yung pinaka policy maker sa IATF. But in this case, medyo tama ka nga nagkaroon ng parallel universe, yung IATF at saka yung NTF. Very correct.
Yeah, ang kasi doon, nagkaroon ng naramdaman yung kakulangan ng leadership ng IATF. Ang presidente natin, sa kanya, napatunayan na niya ang effectivity ng mga sundalo di ba? Palagi naman niya sinasabi yun na pag binagbigay ka ng utos, by all means, gagawin nila yan. Because that's how they are trained.
Yeah.
Kaya umasa na siya dito sa NTF. And
ano ba ito? Kaso ba ito ng kahiyaan na lang? Kasi, hindi, nandiyan na, sinabi ko, I support him. Sige na, papaligiran ko na lang siya ng mga general at saka ng mga workers. Pero pag tinanggal ko kasi yan, lalabas. I mean, is that am I correct in pointing that out na if the president removes Duque now, it would reflect on him? Do you really believe it would reflect on the president as a failure if he removed Duque now?
Well, I don't think naman na it would be a failure on his part, o lalabas na failure on his part or an admission of a failure. Talagang ganun. Leaders would make decisions na para do sa ikabubuti ng objective. Ako naman, although I would understand kung sakaling ganun man, parang nagkahiyan, I would understand kasi kahit sa akin, I would be guilty of that sometimes sa sarili kong organization. Kukuha na lang ako ng may isang tao na parang yun nga, kahiyaan. Kuha na lang ako ng tao na mag-augment sa kanya. Parang ganun.
Yung sasalo.
Oo. But in this case kasi, medyo crucial yung function ng mga offices and the personalities involved.
Okay.
This is the life of the country at stake. No? So,
Mhm.
dapat hindi tayo mahiya kung kailangan natin magpalit ng personalidad or even change a structure or the
Mhm.
approach.
Yeah, because I don't know, maybe I'm crossing the line here, maybe I'm taking too much liberty because I have known Secretary Duque for the longest time. Siya yung he's a worker. He communicates, he gets things done, pero hindi siya yung parang kasi technically we are at war. We are at war. This is our World War III. And parang we all need a Duterte kind of guy to be in the front, a General Patton sort of, to say, no? Pero hindi style ni Pingoy Duque yun eh. Si Pingoy Duque yung, sige Ruffy, ikaw muna dyan. O Cito, can you please look at this, no? Is it management style that is causing Secretary Duque to be persecuted? Talaga bang or talagang wrong fit for the situation lang siya? Because I mean, he's not a bad person. I don't think he's a bad person. I will never agree to that. But I will agree that baka wrong fit.
Well, ako rin naman, sa pagkakilala ko kay Secretary Duque, is not a bad person.
Mm.
In fact, nung ito ngang mga ganap na ganito, no, I even initiated a resolution in the House na to urge, to call on the chairman of the IATF, Secretary Duque, to exercise all the powers vested in him as the chairman. No?
Mm.
Ayun, ang dahilan nun, we wanted Secretary Duque to be backed up by Congress, no, para
Mm.
magkumpas siya at bastunin niya yung mga kasama niya.
Mm.
Para kumbaga, makikita ng those who are supposed to follow him, makita nila na he has the backing of Congress. May resolution kami.
Uh-huh.
Pero siguro nga, yung leadership style is not fitted dito sa scenario natin ngayon. Kakaiba naman yung scenario natin eh. Nobody has experienced, in our generation, nobody has experienced this kind of problem. No?
Mm.
So sometimes it's the type of leadership or the leadership style that matters, not the personality.
Mhm.
Again, I would also believe you and join you and say that hindi naman siya bad person.
Mhm.
It's just that in times like this, may certain type of leadership na kailangan natin.
Okay. Now, matanong ko because I have you mentioned earlier that there are many things that your associates in Congress have been talking about, trying to push forward, and some of your associates like Congresswoman Kimbo, Congressman Benny Abante, Congressman Joey Salceda, talagang pinupush nila yung supplemental budget of I forgot how much na. And then in my last interview with Congressman Salceda, who is also chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, sinabi niya na, Sito, ngayon ko palang sasabihin sa media ito, sa programa ko sasabihin na I want SAP 3. Pero ang problema, lahat nitong push ng Congress na maglabas ng pera para matulungan ang taong bayan, understandably, sinasabi naman ng Department of Finance, teka, saan namin kukunin yan at paano natin babayaran? How do you resolve this issue? Because now, we have MECQ, sabi ng Malacanang, hindi natin pwedeng pahabain to kasi malilintikan ng ekonomiya, hindi na natin kaya. Parang ang tao, hilo na, Congressman, hilo na ang tao. Kasi pag vaccine, may pera daw. Pag MECQ at saka SAP, wala raw pera. So parang close open, close open. Ano ba talaga ang sitwasyon?
Yan yung pinag-uusapan ng group namin. No? Kasi kasama namin sila Kong Joey Salceda, si Stella Kimbo.
Mhm.
Yung mga consultation nga na nakuha namin, doon namin, ginawa namin, doon namin nakuha yung mga proposals. And yung sinasabi ni Kong Joey na stimulus package, tama ka, hindi nga malamya ang response executive doon sa proposal ng legislative. So sa ngayon, doon nagkakaroon ng differences eh. So uh, again, lalampas na yun sa akin, no? Beyond my pay scale nga, sabi nga, yung leadership ang makakapagbigay talaga ng solution doon. Dahil dito sa baba, doon sa committee namin, doon sa mga stakeholders, the good idea seems to be to put money, invest in people, no? Tulong sa tao, yung tulong sa small and medium scale industries. Pero ang balik naman sa amin, ang sabi, ang approach na nakikita ng Finance Department is assistance to the big corporations. So ang hirap ng labanan. Ako, I'm not an economist, so nakikinig lang din ako sa mga
Okay.
inputs nila dyan. But to me, sa naririnig ko, very sound naman yung proposal ng Congress, yung Arise Bill. Kasi I read also somewhere na yung idea of offering incentives to the big corporations to spur investments, no, sabi yung bababaan ang corporate income tax, etc. That would work if the investors are prepared to invest. Sa ngayon yata ang mood ng investors is wait and see eh. Diba?
At saka yung investor, mahaba ang lubid, mahaba ang pisi. Pero yung mga small micro businesses, if we don't help them now, patay sila and they're actually dying because 26 have already shut down. If more and more shut down, more and more Filipinos will go unemployed.
Yes, kaya nga yung mga yung isa sa mga narinig nakuha naming information, the bigger businesses are borrowing money from the banks pero tinatago lang rin nila. Hindi naman nila nilalabas. Parang
May advantage.
Rainy day, di ba?
Oo, kasi mababa yung rates. They're taking advantage of the rates. In any case, bago ako maubusan ng oras kong Ruffy, tanungin ko lang, ano ang quick reaction mo doon sa binitawang salita ni AFP Chief Gilbert Gapay na dapat i-restrict or ewan ko ba, kaya medyo higpitan daw yung social media to prevent radicalization. Ikaw naging estudyante ka, nagmilitary ka, anong tingin mo doon?
Hindi, una, di ako nag-military. Lumaki lang sa military campus.
No, sorry. Okay.
Well, I'm one with General Gapay sa fight against terrorism. Kaya nga ako na-involved diyan sa sa Anti-Terrorism Law. Pero yung proposal niya is not the intention of the framers of the law. Walang legal basis yung proposal niya na i-subject ang social media to regulation in pursuit of the Anti-Terrorism Law kasi gusto daw niya isama sa IRR. Hindi pwede. No? One is, it's not the intention of the framers of the law. Pinag-usapan na yan namin ng mga hearings and the idea was not included in the law. Kung yun ang intention, we would have placed it there. No? Nandun dapat yung provision na yun. Pero wala eh. So hindi kasama. Second, it cannot be introduced into the implementing rules and regulations because the IRR should not go beyond what the law provides. So sabi nga ni Senator Drilon, that would become unconstitutional.
Well, you're a social media netizen yourself. Do you believe in that perspective or that idea that there is a radicalization in the Philippines through social media? I mean, baka isa, dalawa, no, na individual, pero as a platform and as a population, valid ba yung concern ni General Gapay?
Well, the concern is valid, no, kasi the terrorists are using social media talaga, no, to spread propaganda and try to recruit. Hindi ko lang alam. I don't have any access to information on how many Filipinos have been radicalized. But the fact is, since it's there in the internet, it's accessible to anyone who has an internet access. No? So yung possibility na may ma-radicalize because of internet propaganda ng terrorists, it is there. So it's a threat. But na-outweigh naman nung pagbabantay ng freedom of expression and privacy, yung proposal to regulate. Kasi pag sinabi natin regulate social media, it would mean iko-control mo yung access eh.
Aha.
And it's people's right to information, nandun din
Mhm.
yun. So mas nangingibabaw yun than the fear of the threat na radicalization through the internet. Kasi ako
Kung
mismo, example na lang,
oo.
like you said, I'm a netizen, talagang babad ako dyan. But I haven't come across, no? Personally, I haven't come across material. But since it is out in the internet, it might be accessible to others.
Mhm.
So, kaya sabi ko nga, kaya hindi naman kinontemplate ng framers ng law na isama yung regulation of social media.
Mhm.
Kasi mas mangingibabaw yung exercise ng rights such as right to information, yung freedom of expression, and privacy. Kaya hindi
Okay.
kasama siya doon.
Kung ako lang ang tatanungin nila, mas mabuti pang i-regulate natin yung pornography na mas kalat sa internet kaysa pinoproblema natin tong radicalization. But fair is fair. At least you showed, you aired both sides of the coin. At least maintindihan din ng mga tao na hindi naman absurd yung iniisip ni General Gapay. But at the same time, the law, as you pointed out, does not provide for regulation of social media through the Anti-Terror Bill. In any case,
Pahabol
yeah,
lang, no? And
yes,
there,
yes.
there are provisions in the law, the existing law, na magagamit nila to run after yung mga gumagamit ng social media for terrorist activity. So, there's sufficient powers in the law.
Okay. Kumbaga, wag mo na idamay yung aming Facebook at aming Instagram.
At TikTok.
Ano yun? Walang basagan ng trip. Okay, thank you very much, Congressman Ruffy Biazon. Please
Thank you.
stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and God bless you, bro.
God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, that's Congressman Ruffy Biazon, and yun po, at least marami tayong napag-usapan. Ano naman, mayroon ding concern sa tama naman ng military natin tungkol sa radicalization, lalo na ISIS, ginamit ang social media para i-promote yung kanilang kabangisan, kanilang kalupitan, etc. Pero sabi nga, walang basagan ng trip. May batas, gamitin yung batas para habulin yung lumalabag sa batas. Huwag nating pakialaman yung batas para guluhin yung mga sumusunod sa batas. Okay.